Hello there, my name is Tim, Golf 5 Tango Mike is my call sign, and today I'm going to take part in the 10 question ham radio lockdown challenge. Thanks for joining, and if you like what you see, don't forget to press subscribe and hit that bell button for any future notifications. Okay, my thanks first of all to Chris, whose channel is M0RSF, that's Romeo Sierra Foxtrot, who nominated me to answer 10 questions about amateur radio. This little fun thing that's going around at the moment with different creators, YouTube creators, who are just nominating one or two other channels at the time, YouTube creating channels at the time, just to answer 10 questions about ham radio in the UK and to pass on as well. So I do have one channel I'd like to forward this on to at the end, and I'll mention who that is at the end. So on then with the 10 questions, and we'll have a look at question 1. So question 1, which transceivers do I own? Well, for HF, I own an Icon 7300, which I really like, and also a Yaesu FT891. Now the 7300 I use at home. I use that in conjunction with the Win4 Icon software, which I really like using, which controls the rig. At the moment I've got it with a USB cable controlling the rig, and I'm looking to maybe try a remote station soon as well, if I can find somewhere to put the remote station. So the 7300, I also use the Yaesu FT891, which I use mobile stroke portable, really like that rig. For 2 meters I've got a Yaesu 3100, which is a 2 meter FM transceiver. And I have owned in the past a Yaesu 857, a Yaesu 450, 450D, and a couple of Yaesu 817s. So I've swapped about a bit, but I really like the lineup I have at the moment. I especially like the 891. I think that's a bit of an upgrade on the 857, although you don't, of course, have 2 meters or 70 centimeters with the 891. But the receive is brilliant on it. It's a much more newer rig, and the technology is about 10 or 15 years younger than the 857, and the receive really shows that. So those are my rigs. Question 2 is what is my favourite band? Well, that depends really. I guess the bread and butter bands, 40 and 20 meters for HF. I also, at different times of the year, enjoy other bands. So in the summer I really enjoy 10 meters because it's sporadic-y. Really enjoy chasing that on 10 meters. So I really enjoy that. 2 meters as well, working sort of portable with that up a hill is quite nice, good fun. Haven't got a 2 meter setup here actually, which I'm probably thinking of getting sorted in the next few months. And currently at the moment I really enjoy 40 meters. You probably saw my latest video, if you haven't, check it out. A monoband end-fed halfway for 40 meters, and this time of year now in the summer in the UK, or early summer, it's coming up to the middle of May now. You tend to get lots of inter-G. That means contacts within the UK, lots of shorter skip happening, and 40 meters is a great band for that. So I've got a soft spot for 40 at the moment, but yeah, that can vary. And in the winter, 80 meters more so, when I can actually get on 80 at home because I've got a very small garden, and still 40 meters. So in the summer it tends to be the higher bands, including 40 meters, if you can class it as a higher band, probably not. And I enjoy VHF occasionally getting up a hill as well. So there's no one favourite band, it depends on the time of the year, it depends what I fancy. Question 3, which transceivers would I like to own? Ooh. Okay, for HF, I wouldn't mind upgrading the 7300 at some stage to a 7610, IC 7610 from Icon. Old school, I love the looks of a Yaesu FT2000. They are gorgeous looking radios, and it's on my bucket list. A bit young hopefully yet, I hope for that, but it's on my bucket list that one day I'll own one of them, because they just look like really, they're lookers. They look like really good looking rigs. I also fancy an Icon 746 Pro as well, IC 746. Because apparently it's a really good performer on 2 meters SSB, and that's one thing I've never tried. I've never gone flat side, if you like, on horizontal on SSB on 2 meters. I just really fancy an Icon 746 Pro. So yeah, of the 3, I guess the one I'd really like to have more than anything would be the FT2000 from Yaesu, because it's such a good looking rig. Number 4, is amateur radio a dying hobby? No, it's a changing hobby, I think. It's naive to say that it's going to be as popular now as it was 30 or 40 years ago, but it's changing. Digital modes have come into play. I'm not a huge fan of digital modes, but I don't knock anyone who does them. We're at the very, very bottom, just about, of the sunspot cycle at the moment. So SSB has its challenges because of the very fact that people are going on to digital. Propagation isn't as good. But it's more than one way to skin a cat. And I've never been on the amateur band when we've gone into sunspot maximum, so I'm so looking forward to that, even though it's most forecasts saying it's not going to be a brilliant peak. But you know, to see the SFI well into 3 figures and sunspots being, you know, prevalent every day, and bands like 10, 12, 15 being open sometimes 24/7, I'm so looking forward to that, and it'll bring the hobby into focus for a lot of people then, because you haven't got to have enough room for a 40-meter dipole or similar in your garden. You can basically put up a short antenna because you can still work the world on the higher bands. So I think the message for anyone who thinks the hobby might be declining is just to hold fast, because the good times are around the corner again with sunspots, and there'll be other developments. And if you haven't tried it, if you want to work digital, give it a go. You know, there is more one way to enjoy the hobby. So my answer to that is, it's probably not as popular as it was, but is it dying? No. And is it changing? You bet. And even the nature of SSB, for those of us who've only been licensed for a few years, you know, how we get onto SSB and how we enjoy the higher bands more often, that'll change in the next few years. So just hold steady, enjoy the hobby, and if you enjoy it now, think how much more you're going to enjoy it in about 8 or 9 years' time, when we're really towards the peak of that 11-year sunspot cycle. Okay, number 5, Kenwood, ICOM or Yaesu. I've never owned a Kenwood. I never really fancied a Kenwood. I'm also hearing word that maybe they're beginning to sort of pull out a little bit from the hobby. I don't know if that's true. I think they're doing something in Australia where they may have stopped production, or something's happening with them. I'm hearing a few whispers from a few different places that maybe Kenwood are maybe not as committed as before. They'll probably bring out a fantastic new SDR transceiver now. If you think about it, ICOM have really changed the game with the 7300. You know, it has its pluses and minuses, but for the money you pay for a 7300 and for what you get with it, it's one hell of a radio. You know, and you do pay a bit more for ICOM. Yaesu probably is the poorer relation of the three in some people's eyes. I have to tell you though, I mentioned this earlier, my FT891, I wouldn't part with it. And I tell you one thing, for something else as well. If I had to sell my 7300 and run my base station off an 891, it wouldn't be the end of the world. In fact, it would be not much of an issue for me. I think it's a great little rig, and the receiving it is fantastic. So to sum it up, probably leaning towards an ICOM man myself. Don't mind Yaesu, never owned a Kenwood. At the moment, I don't see the need to actually own a Kenwood. But there's lots of people who swear by them, and I'm sure they're very big. Home, portable or mobile? Well, I've done all, yes, I have done all three. I've never actually driven and operated at the same time. I don't want to do that. So I'm mobile in the sense that I've operated, parked up with the rig in the car and the antenna on the roof. And the definition of mobile, as far as I know, is that if you can drive away with the antenna on the roof, then you are a mobile station, whether you are stationary or whether you are travelling. I'll probably get told off for that now, but there we are. That's what I take on it. Portable, yes, I've worked portable quite a few times. There's a few videos on my channel about me working portable with poles shut up against fence posts, and still operating in the car, mind, because I'm a bit of a softie really. But that's classed as portable because you can't drive away with the antenna, can you? You've got to take the antenna down, pack it down, so that's working portable. And at home as well. Of the three, convenience wise, I like mobile because I really like the way the little Ampro whips work from 20 metres and up, even on 40. And I only live about a 5-minute drive from the beach. So even putting a little 20-metre Ampro, 8 foot long, so that 2 and a bit metre long whip on the car, if you're parked up within a few feet of the shoreline, does not make a difference to your signal and what you can hear. So I like all three. And I'll be honest with you, I've enjoyed far more success DX-wise working mobile than I have at home. So if you never tried it, give it a go. 7. Digital or analog? Well, I've never tried digital. FT8 doesn't float my boat, but I'm not knocking anyone who does it, or RTTY or anything like that. I am purely a two-dimensional, black and white analog guy, and I enjoy SSB, FM. I'm a voice man, simple as that. So that's a short answer for you. For me, it's analog. Question 8, have I ever tried CW? No. I don't have the time. People are flinging things at the screen. I work 45, 50 hours a week. I've got a young family, and I haven't got time to learn effectively what is another language. Might do when I'm older. But at the moment I don't have the time. And I'd love to be able to do it, but I simply do not have the time in my home time at the moment to do anything else other than operate at maybe a few hours a week if I'm lucky, and do what I need to do. So the answer is no, I've never have, and hopefully in the future, if I don't go nuts too early in my life, I'll be able to have a go at doing it. Last two questions are the big ones. Number 9, what do I think about the UK licence stages? Let me have a think about that. Okay, I've had a thought about it. Okay, currently we have 3 stages in the UK. We've got foundation, intermediate, and I never can remember what it's called, full or advanced. I'll go for full because it's less wordy. You know what I'm saying. We have a 10 watt limit for foundation. We have a 50 watt limit for intermediate, and a 400 watt limit for full. Okay, and there isn't really much of a restriction in terms of the band usage, apart from the fact that you can only use 60 meters, I think, if you're a full license holder, and there are limitations in terms of how much you can use the really high UHF bands, the microwave frequencies, that kind of thing, which don't really interest me, but there you are. Okay, if I had a magic wand and I could change things, this is what I would do. I would have a 2-tier system. All right. I would have tier 1 would be, call it whatever you want to, but it's tier 1. That's the lower of the 2 tiers. I'd have a 100 watt limit, and yeah, that's it. There's no point in imposing band restrictions now because that horse is bolted. Once you have many years of foundation class holders having full access to all HF bands and stuff like this, apart from 60 meters, whatever. No point changing it now. You know that horse is bolted. There's no point doing it. It doesn't make any sense whether you want to do it or not. It doesn't bother me anyway. So that's what I wouldn't do. Why 100 watts? Okay, so if you ran a poll of all the foundation class holders and asked them how many of them own rigs capable of 100 watts, I would wager the vast majority would say yes. Now, there's obviously some that don't. Some people like the QRP anyway, but that's a different argument, all right? So I would say the majority of foundation class hold licenses, and intermediates for that matter, all own 100 watts. Let's be honest about it, okay? Human nature takes over. Some people are really, really good at staying to their power limits, and some people aren't. So my view is, I mean, in America it's 100 watts. I'm pretty sure it is 100 watts for the first tier. But they have band restrictions, of course. Well, I think we need to keep it real. And let's be honest with you. Let's just leave it at 100 watts and let's make sure everybody knows that's the limit, and that the vast majority then of that so-called tier 1, as we'll call them, that's foundation intermediates, the vast majority will only use 100 watts anyway. There'll always be somebody who will cheat, but what do you do? But if you kept it at 100 watts, then it's very much less likely people are going to cheat. If you can't bust a pile up on 100 watts, then if you're the type that goes out and wants to pay 500 quid, 1,000, 1,500 quid, two grand or more for an amp, then you're going to do it anyway, aren't you? Whether your restriction is 10 or 100. But I actually think 100 watts is a healthy and grown-up limit. Now, second tier, call it what you want. The higher tier, that's the equivalent of the full license holders. I'd say kilowatt, but there you are. I'll probably get shot down in flames for that. Obviously, there's still the need to ensure you don't interfere with your neighbours. That's a given. But if you're running 400 watts, If you've got an amp that's capable of running 400 watts, chances are the amp is probably capable of running even a little bit more than that, or substantially more than that. So again, you know, is a kilowatt a nice round number? I don't know. Puts us in line. I think America is full legal limit 1.5 kW. So we're still below them. And the rest of Europe, I think we're very much the poor relations in terms of power. There might be some other countries in Europe that are, you know, level with us, but I think a lot of countries that I speak to, the legal limit is a lot more than what we have. So that'll be my take on it. Doesn't bother me. I just run 100 watts anyway, so you know. And that's what I would do. So I'd have 100 watts for tier 1 and a kilowatt for tier 2. But there you are. Doubt it'll ever happen. Final question. Question 10. Let's go read this out. What would you change about amateur radio? Well, you know what? If you'd asked me that question about 3 months ago, I'd tell you that there's a need probably to make it easier for people to gain their license. But not thankfully, one of the silver linings in the lockdown cloud, in the COVID cloud that we're currently going through, is that the RSGB have made, I think, a very wise decision to allow people to sit online exams for the foundation license. I think that's brilliant. And strangely enough, that seems to have unlocked a real demand for getting your license. I think in 2018, something like 1,600 people attempted or sat the exam for the foundation. I've seen figures lately where for April, May and June this year, and June hasn't fully booked, we're approaching 600 already. So clearly it's opened up pent-up demand. Speaking as a busy family man myself, I was lucky in that I managed to get hold of a fantastic trainer who got me through my foundation intermediate in particular. If I had to attend a course every week or on a weekend, I couldn't have done it. Simple as that. Couldn't have done it. But because I self-studied and he mentored me, and he therefore took me through the practical for the intermediate and things like this, I got the license and I was really pleased. So the bottom line is, I think it's opened up an avenue for people who really find it hard to give the time. Now people will say, well, if you love the hobby enough, you'll give the time. Well, no, actually, that's a pretty crappy response, if I'm being honest. People have demands on them for various reasons, you know. Gone are the days when I was brought up where you had one parent working and usually the mum staying at home looking after the house, all right? And then dad could pop out in the evenings and do what he wanted, because mum would always be there, right? That doesn't happen anymore. You know, both parents have to work, and it's just a different world now. And you have more demands on your time through work as well. You know, employers expect you to work longer hours these days for the basic wage. Yeah? So much overtime is unpaid for different jobs. So, bottom line is, people don't have the time. All right? And when both of you are working full time, then you've got children, then it's a bigger strain on your partner, your wife, or whoever, if you have to go and then pop out to the club every week or for the full weekend. Sometimes it just can't be done. So I think this is a great way forward. Needless to say, I think they should do the same for the intermediate and the full. But I think at the moment they're doing it just to see what the demand is and how it all goes. I suspect if it goes well, they'll have a very difficult decision to make when all this is over. When I say all this is over, when the COVID crisis is over. Because they'll then have to take a very, very, very important decision as to how they go about ensuring that there's this continued improved access to the foundation. Because what this has shown more than anything is that prior to all these changes, there clearly was a bottleneck. Anyway, that's my 2 penneth on that one. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Now then, I'd like to nominate the channel called Ringway Manchester. That's Lewis, who is the proprietor of Ringway Manchester. And he already knows he's going to be nominated. So it isn't a surprise for him. So check out Lewis's response to all these questions. And my thanks once again to Chris M0RSF for asking me to take part. And if you like what you see, click subscribe, click that bell button, and I'll catch you again. This is Tim, G5TM, wishing you 7-3 and to stay safe. Bye-bye.